Welcome to Spirited Straight Talk, the podcast to help you thrive with the help of spirit. I'm Deb Shepard, psychic medium, spiritual teacher, and author. Each week, I bring new insights to help you heal from loss, connect with spirit, and turn setbacks into triumphs. So let's get started. Well, I'm here with Dana, and Dana and I are passionate about a lot of things, and one of them is animals. What would our world look like if we didn't have animals? How about if we didn't have any bees? You know, my name Deborah means bee, so I collect them. But bees provide all of the food that we need on this planet. And if those were gone, could you imagine what would happen to the human race, as well as all animals? But there's another side to it. Most of us do love animals. I think they average over $1,500 a year we spend on just one dog a year. We could probably retire a lot earlier, right, if we didn't have our animals. There are 69 million households that have dogs in just the U.S. I think that's pretty incredible. So obviously animals have quite a meaning for us. And so the topic today is about your totem animal. What is your totem animal? How do you know what the totem animal is for you? And how do they speak to you? Because they're messengers. And if we understand that many cultures around the world have used totem animals as part of their belief system and their culture, and how animals bring so much to our world and the beauty of what our planet looks like. So I think today we're going to dive into the arena of what is your totem animal? What do they mean? How do you get messages from your loved ones? Do they become your guides through life? I know some people love animals more than people, and that's really interesting. Yes. Well, besides me, okay. So our world would be completely, well, we probably wouldn't be alive. Let's put it that way, if it wasn't for the animals in our world and what they do and bring to our to Mother Earth. But there's also a lot of stories because animals can have a lot of power. So in a lot of cultures, when a baby is born, they actually have a ceremony to bring in the totem animal for a baby, which I thought was really an amazing thing. Cool. Isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. So that, and you see this especially in the Native American cultures where they give their child a name, a lot of times represented by an animal of power or something that is an energy that animal brings.
I like calling it your power animal.
Yes.
Because that's really what it is. It's like what you're connected to, that
energy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then I was thinking, how come we don't do that here in America? But actually we do. If you think about all the stuffed animals we give these babies, I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, our grandson Bjorn, his name is a Viking name, but it means bear. And so we collected all these bears for this young man. So if you think about it, naturally, we actually, or his family, his parents, gave him the totem at birth.
Fair, yeah.
Isn't that cool?
True.
So when we look at these different things that we do bring and how we decorate the child's room, or the child is really excited about a particular animal and how they relate to these animals. So we sort of do it without knowing. So this could maybe be a past life or we think it's cute, but I just think a lot of that really shared with me that we do that unknowingly. But some people know their totem animals pretty early on, or they are not sure if they like their totem animal that we've done in classes. And I've used animal cards and decks throughout all my classes teaching because people relate to them sometimes. And a lot of times they don't like the totem, which is really interesting. So we have a couple stories that I want to share with you today. And one of them is, my sister-in-law, which we both love, Lisa, very much.
Yes.
And she has, over the years, collected elephants. And she says, I don't know why, but I'm just passionate about those. She's drawn. And so one time I got the information for her and sent it to her. She goes, isn't that fit? And I go, absolutely. So it really resonated with her too. And I think you said something about your grandmother did too? Or
yeah, my grandmother collected elephants that had their trunk up, which means luck or meant luck to her. And I know in some cultures it means good luck.
Correct.
And she liked to go up the hill here in Colorado to the casinos, and that was one of her lucky symbols
that she brought with us, but with her too. Yeah,
with her trunk up.
And one of my favorite stories too is our friend now Dawn, but she wasn't a friend then. She was a first-time client that came to one of our weekend workshops, And I have everyone pull a card just to get into the mood, I guess, not mode, but the mood into getting into the spiritual work. And she pulled a raven and she looked at it almost later. I found out wanting to leave at that moment. She almost turned around and walked out, but ended up staying. And do you remember the reason why the raven kind of scared her? Do you remember the story behind it?
Yeah. She told us that it was a symbol to her. She saw a raven when her husband had passed away. And for her, the symbol was scary and dark and
death.
Yes.
Yeah,
it meant death to her because that's what she had in her mind. But she learned about the raven and stayed in the class, shared this with us.
Has continued working with me.
Continues to work with you. And now has ravens in her home.
She honors them.
As her symbol. She honors them.
And that's really interesting. We get to that place of thinking, oh, this is not a good symbol or sign. And it's not true. We have to understand. And that's where a lot of the cultures understood what every animal brought to the tribe as messengers. And so when they would see certain things, it would give them a message from spirit or from source.
Animals, and I know you always share this, animals are great messengers because you're not in your head. So if you notice an animal or something unusual, it's an easy way for you to interpret a message from your loved ones or from spirit. Because they're all around us and we can't control that.
Right.
Whereas if we're in our head, we control it, right?
Absolutely. And that's what we have to kind of gauge on, is what each animal means. So I had a small class that was a weekend, one really tiny class. I had everyone pull an animal card, and one of the ladies in the class pulled a sloth. And I thought to myself, I wonder what she's going to think about this. And, she's going to think this is odd, this is weird. And she was so excited because she actually loves the sloth. She collects them. She had them in her office. She has a sloth calendar. And the end of the session or end of the class, she was going to go to a place where they had sloths where you could go and be with them.
So she loved sloths.
So how that out of a deck of probably 60, 70 cards, that's what she pulled. And she was already connected to, which I thought was very interesting. But one of the most interesting ones, I believe, is our friend's daughter that has, I think, 4 tarantulas now. Is that what she has?
Yeah, something like that. That's her spirit animal.
Her spirit, it's her therapy. She loves these things. And
she took it to class.
Yeah.
Her mom fought to
allow
get
her
the school to allow her to take it to class.
It may be the dorm, maybe not class, but I know for sure the dorm.
Well, that was college.
That was college, yeah.
Didn't she have it in high school or something? Like she would carry this little
tarantula with her. And it calmed her down. So,
anxiety, yeah.
And if you look at the spiritual meaning of these animals, it really makes a lot of sense. And that's really it, is going deeper into it versus having that scary feeling. It's like how people are, when they see a snake or think, oh, this is just really creepy. And really, the snake is a very powerful totem for people. And we even see it on the doctor's symbol. I never pronounced it correctly. So do you want to take a stab at it?
I think it's caduceus.
Okay. Which is a Greek word.
Yeah.
And you see this,
Greek word.
Yeah. And you see the snake going up it, which is all about healing, rebirth, new beginnings, and ending to new life. And some people think, well, an ending's a bad thing, but some endings are needed. They're, the endings of things that are no longer serving you. So when you see those little snakes, garden snakes or whatever, it's saying hello. And they always come at different times, which is interesting. We even had, I think it was the last year, we found in our neighborhood as we were walking, like 3 or 4 dead snakes.
Yeah.
And we're like, whoa, it was just one after another. So it was really kind of hitting us in the head about what to do.
Right. So we had to look up the spiritual meaning of a dead snake.
Yes.
Because there is meanings to all the animals that we come across. I mean, not every animal we come across, as you say, is a messenger. But when it's something unusual or it's something repetitive that stands out to you, it can be a messenger. Right?
And what you said earlier, I agree upon, where we're in our head and we're looking for answers, and then we see this odd animal energy. And we're thinking, wow, okay. I remember one funny story. This was several years ago. And one of my former students, she's actually a friend too, Mary, she lives close to us, and she goes outside and she sees like hundreds of butterflies. Do you remember this story?
Yeah.
And she's thinking, I'm really getting the message of transformation. Look at all these butterflies, and kind of doing the same thing. We'd walk around and I'm like, God, look at all these butterflies. And I think it was the time of year.
It was a migration time, yeah.
Which doesn't happen very often, but they happen to come in through. But to me, again, it was a great way to slow down, pay attention, and even thinking, what do you want to transform?
Well, and she was going through a transformation.
Yes, she was. That beginning stages of it. So again, when you get things like that, it is to definitely pay attention and to see what the messages are regarding that. Hawk has been my totem for a long time, where I feel like I'm above things and I can see the bigger picture. Where you're down, you're down into the nitty gritty, getting things done. You get all the details.
I go between hawk and mouse.
Yes,
I do. I will look at the bigger picture, but then I'll dig into the details.
Yeah. So the mouse is like really into the details, and I'm like, yeah, no.
No, you figure out the details. I'll stay up here.
I'll stay up here. So the hawk is really about seeing that large picture, and Dana can see that and then make it happen. And sometimes I'm just about, well, in my readings, it's about helping them get more detailed with what they're seeing.
In between hawk and mouse too.
Not as much with mouse, though,
because you dig into details.
I do.
I would have to disagree with that one.
Okay. Well, then for a while, I kept seeing the giraffes everywhere. Remember? And so I looked it up, and again, it's standing up and looking above things. And it really began that I was starting to laugh, but I kept seeing them all the time. So of course I had to find a giraffe to actually bring and remind myself about bringing in that energy from the giraffe as well. And they're so beautiful with those. I don't have a long tongue though. Like they do.
It's not black.
It's not black. So it's really giving you the idea to pay attention to what are you seeing? What are you recognizing? If you're in an office, how many times, or in someone's place or home, and things are popping out, or all of a sudden you're seeing all these commercials that have a particular animal that you would normally not see. That's when you need to stop and just say, okay, what is the universe telling me? And that's the key to paying attention to that. We're also attracted to certain animals, like the lady with the sloth. She really had an interest in that type of animal. So a lot of times we are drawn to that animal that helps us through our journey, that we don't know why we're drawn to it. So with that said, there's so many cultures out there, not just the U.S. We think of us being in the U.S., we have a lot of Native American kind of culture. But if you look at cultures around the world, there are so many of them that have brought in the animals that they believe really help them in their life and their area. But also, if you think about it, animals are used for many types of totems. You look at teams, sports, tons of animals for that. They sell cars.
The Broncos, the Seahawks, the Jaguars.
The Bears.
I can't think of any more. Yeah, the Bears. I can't think of any more right now.
Yeah, so there's all these different animals that we use as symbolism for what kind of energy we want to bring in. And that's where you want to be able to say.
You don't see mice as a team.
No, absolutely not. Or squirrels, or
they're all power animals.
Power animals. They are power. Even though the mouse and the squirrel can be great totems of what they message to us. If you really want to have that warrior energy, that's why they're usually these power animals that come to us that we notice too. And what I found interesting in some of these cultures, if your totem animal, let's say, is a turkey, you're not allowed to eat the turkey. Which is okay with you. Yeah. So you can't eat your own totem, which
mine is a peacock.
Well, yes, I forgot about that story too.
Yeah.
Mine is a peacock.
And so
I don't think you're ever going to eat a peacock.
I have peacock feathers. I wonder if some people do though. That's a weird thought. Anyway.
We don't want to go there.
I don't want to go there. But
we were at a friend's house that had probably
at least 50 peacocks.
Yeah, going up and down the street. They even have is it the peacock strut?
Yeah.
At 5 o'clock.
At 5 o'clock.
And we don't want to talk about me trying to communicate with them through my abilities. If it was on film, it would be on a YouTube or TikTok and be getting lots of hits, because after a glass of wine or two,
pretty funny.
No one thought I was very cute, but I thought I was really communicating with them as well. So, and also the other one was you cannot marry somebody with the same totem, probably because they would not get along, I guess, is part of it. But the other thing I thought about too is in astrology, there's a lot of animals. as well as in Chinese astrology too.
They're all animals.
They're all animals. So if you look around, we have so many different animals around us that are power and images
and
bring messages.
Every single piece of that is bringing a message to us to help us, or connecting us with our higher self, with spirit, with it's all about that.
And now we're even changing laws to protect our animals, which I think is really powerful, because before people were not accountable. So even the idea of us trying to protect these animals and the forest in different landscapes that we want to protect them, they are important to us. And so they're also very connected to the earth. They're not swayed by a mental thought. They're so connected, like they know when there's going to be an earthquake or a tsunami and things like that.
Yeah, that's right. You see animals running away from what's coming 24 hours before it comes. Yeah.
Right. And I think we also get animals, and we said this a while back too, when your animal starts to begin to look like you, or you look like your animal. You know how many times we look at people and go, don't they kind of like they're related?
So does that mean JC looks like you and Piper looks like me?
Well, I think they act like us a little bit. Piper is a little 5-pound Yorkie that actually manages the entire house of all the animals, which we have more.
She tries to manage us too.
Yeah, she tries to manage us. The Roomba, anything that's out of place. And Dana likes things organized. That's her mouse. And it's interesting because she was trained to be do you want to tell that story about them and rats? And
well, they used to breed Yorkies, Yorkshire Terriers, to protect the lunches of miners in England. So they had mines for whatever it was, coal mines, whatever it was. And the Yorkies were bred to protect their lunches.
Isn't it incredible? And we have 2 cats, and they are not good at catching mice, but Piper, she knows. And we don't have those problems anymore, but when there was some construction and we didn't have. Yeah.
Well, we had Bodhi was good at catching them. One of the cats who
this big guy.
He struts around like he is just
the king
of the hill. He's got interesting energy, but he would play them to death, and we'd catch him, and here would be this
poor little mouse
that he had played with for hours.
We didn't know it. We kind of go in there, but Piper, she would get him right away. But also, with that said, we have caught mice and put them out in nature because we don't want to kill them. So that's the kind of people we are. So when the animals get it and we don't know, that's another thing. But we're very humane. We catch and release, sort of like fishing. They probably come right back. Go, do you remember that house down the street where they took us on a trip? Yeah, they took us on that. So it's looking to see what you're gravitated towards. So if you do have mice in your house, then look that up, understand those kind of things. And then we also talk about the messages in dreams. How many times we have animals that come through in our dreams, and people get sometimes kind of freaked out with some of the animals that show up.
What do you think is the scariest or the most common?
I think snakes is a lot of it. That's what I hear most of all. But then they'll see water animals, which is all about the emotion and what does the water look like and what kind of animal is it? Is it like to be with, it's like dolphins. They like to go in a school or a pack. And that's probably the wrong word technically for them. And then you'll see maybe another animal that's always by itself. And what does that mean too? So it's those kind of messages that we can take from those dreams. Yeah. Have you ever had any crazy dreams about it? Mine's always about trying to make sure my dog's okay. I'm always looking for my dog.
Are you?
Well, he's like, 8 pounds?
Uh-huh.
So I'm always looking for him in my dreams. Like, there's something wrong. I'm like, he's fine. He follows me everywhere.
But he's Velcro too.
Yeah, he is Velcro. What kind of dreams about animals have you had?
I'm trying to think if I've had any recently. Gosh, I can't remember.
And also don't rule out the bugs. You know, when you see a ladybug or a grasshopper or any kind of ants, things like that, look it up, because sometimes you're like, yes, I needed to hear that. And when we are getting messages, especially from our loved one, a lot of people think they're butterflies or this bird, things like that. But there are other ways to get. Not every single bird that comes to you is going to be that messenger, but it will show you very well. They'll sit there for a while. It's kind of an odd situation. They may land right close to you. I think I've told you, or on you. The story I had with the hawks. I had one year where these hawks were taking refuge in my backyard, basically, and they ended up having 3 babies. And one of them, I think it was the mother, really started connecting with me, and she'd be upset if I was gone, and she would leave actually food for me. Like she would feed her babies and leave food for me. And I remember calling the Audubon Society and telling them the story, and they go, "We have no idea what that's about." They've never heard of a story like that. And so I realized then again about really paying attention, stepping back, looking at my situation. And it's sometimes hard. Sometimes we want to ignore things or we don't want to get close to it. And the hawk is really, part of me was like, okay, I'm really getting the message here.
Yeah.
And they were strong.
Do you remember a few years ago when we were going through some stuff with a family member that's not connected any longer? There were the crows.
Yes.
That dropped food on the deck when we were sitting out there.
Yes.
They literally landed in the tree above us and dropped something down, which was, I can't remember what it was, but it was food of some sort.
Right.
And we looked it up and it was exactly what was going on. Like it was a message.
Right. And it's the weird things. Like, remember the time you were on the deck again? We do a lot of the deck because that's where the animals are usually. But you were sitting out there with Piper, which is 5 pounds. And
she looks like a bunny.
She looks like a bunny, yeah. And so what happened when you were sitting there? I think you were
a hawk landed. Yeah, I was reading. And a hawk landed on a metal heater. Yeah, the top of a heater.
It wasn't on.
And so it landed and I just heard its claws. And it was very light, but I was like, oh, shoot. And I knew immediately it was a hawk. So I look around and it was a hawk and it was looking right at the dog. So
for dinner.
Yeah. Easy meal, I'm sure it thought. So I had to chase it away and bring the dogs inside. But yeah.
Was I stalking you? Was that my totem stalking you? Could have been. But that's where you really believe and know, hello, I'm here, pay attention, and not take those lightly if you're trying to connect. But if you don't know your totem animals, I recommend getting some totem cards. Animal totem cards are a lot of fun. Even I've encouraged counselors and teachers to have them in their classrooms for kids so that a kid can pull a card and see a message without you telling them, which is, I think, a divine way to get kids to pay attention and to get a message, because kids love animals most of the time. They're really connected to them.
And this is a really simple way, though, too, for people to feel connected and feel like it's more than just themselves. They're not alone.
Right. And if you're not sure about your totem, ask some people, or what are you drawn to? I just had one of my students recently said, well, which one? And she's been around tons of animals. She's even been in the circus. So she's been around tons of different animals. So I told her what I saw and told her what I got. And she pulled them up and she says, yep, they really pretty much fit. But I also believe that your totem animal can change throughout life. So when I was always getting the hawk and people would say, I think I see a hawk around you, they would tell me this. But when I got the giraffe, I knew it was another totem coming in. So there are different times that you may receive another message.
Weren't you a vulture at one time?
Shh.
Wasn't that your totem at one time was a vulture?
Well, I was told I was a vulture. And so I looked it up.
It resonated.
It resonated. When I looked it up, it said it never destroys anything. It only removes what no longer is needed. Yeah. And so they don't kill anything. They actually clean up the planet from carcasses and things like that have died.
What no longer serves.
What no longer serves. Yeah. And I guess their talons have antibiotic material or something on their talons so they don't get sick, which is really cool. So the bird doesn't take on the negativity or the energy from that animal, which really kind of fit me. It still does.
Yeah, it still does.
But I'm not that much of a vulture as much anymore. I'm a little kinder. Well, sometimes.
Well, you can bring it out when you need to, when somebody's not progressing and you mentor them. You can definitely bring it out.
Or in my lane, yes. So if you're really trying to do this, have some fun with it. Think about your dreams, writing things down. In the past year, what animal kind of you were drawn to? When you go to the zoo, what's the animal you say, on my list, I want to make sure I see this animal.
I have to see the monkeys.
I have to see the monkeys.
See the elephants.
Yeah, so what is that animal? And I remember our zoo has really changed here in Denver. It's really beautiful. It was always beautiful, but it's even bigger. And remember the rhino?
Yeah.
There was the baby rhino and then the dad around the corner, big, huge guy. And I was so drawn to that. So when I looked it up, I Googled the spiritual meaning of rhino. It was so right on. Mm-hmm. And so those are great ways to be more intuitive, to be more sensitive, to pay attention. and get messages when you're in that place of frustration, maybe, like you said, that you get in your head, and to see what is it that brings something to you. And people collect. I have another friend that collects ladybugs for her daughter. And so again, those ladybugs are another message for her and her daughter's connection.
We have somebody we know that collects roosters, and there's roosters
everywhere
in her house. And obviously that is her totem.
It means something to her. So if you think that someone says, well, you're really crazy for collecting all these, now you know there's always been a reason. There is a purpose behind your collection.
That's your power animal.
That's your power animal. But you can meditate and see what comes to your mind, what feels right. If you're the cat lady, I would imagine cats and big cats. If you think about, cats have 9 lives. They land on their feet. They don't need a lot of people around them. They're okay just being solitaire. They like sleeping all day. I think that could be me. So again, these animals are going to have a purpose. You're going to draw them in, and you're going to know what's going to feel right when it comes to you. And to me, this is one of the most playful ways to start developing your intuition, which is why I always bring it to the beginning of my classes, because it's a fun way to get out of your head. And I can't recommend one particular deck. I think we have like 4 or 5 decks.
Spirit animal decks, or spirit oracle cards.
Yeah.
Spirit animal oracle cards.
Absolutely. And so what we want you to do is continue following us with other advice and other types of insight regarding the spiritual realm, because bottom line, we have a lot of things that can help you learn to be more connected to your loved ones and to source. And always remember, your loved ones, even though they're on the other side, they're always by your side. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope it inspired you. If you enjoyed our conversation, make sure you subscribe so that you get notified of new episodes. And let's get connected. Visit debshepard.com for more insights, support, workshops, and a book a session with me. And finally, always remember, your loved ones in spirit are just a thought away. Even though they're on the other side, they're always by your side.